All right. Good evening, everybody. Please, I want you guys to say something so that we know we are together. If you can hear me, say something.
Good
We
evening,
can
sir.
meet up. Okay. Thank you very much, iPhone user. Then Asidu, can you hear me? Consola, can you hear me say something?
Good afternoon.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. So I don't know why the class is like this. No, are supposed to be more than this. I think I saw they said about 140 students also registered for VJS. But
Class will be
nevertheless,
recorded.
the class is going to be recorded, and as well, you guys will get it later
All right.
on. And also for today's class, it's just going to be introduction and revision of some JavaScript content, right? Oh, you guys are not up to 40. No problem. So what we're going to be doing is revision of JavaScript and introduction to Vue.js. So that's what we'll be doing basically. So if I may ask, how was the JavaScript class like? Hope you guys were able to learn well. Just unmute your mic and say something. I want an interactive class. How was the JavaScript class? Hope you learned well. Okay. Nobody saying anything.
That is actually somehow is like maybe with proper revision we can actually get something. For me, I don't really.
Okay. I can't hear you over here. The thing is kind of breaking, but nevertheless. Okay, like if I get it clearly, you said it was somehow that is how every class are. Let me just put it that way. If you are learning something for the first time, it's always like that. You need to put in extra effort. But nevertheless, let's start because there's no time. Let's start. Let me share my screen. Who's disabled attendee share screen? This one I'm not able to share my screen. I'm coming. Okay. So hopefully I'll be able to share my screen soon. That feature is kind of disabled for attendees. I'm not the host. So okay, I think it's on now. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Hey, please, if you can hear me, say something. Okay. It's okay now. Entire screen. All right. Now I'm able to share screen. So let's continue. So I believe you can all see my screen. So, like I was saying, I said it's your first time learning JavaScript, so definitely you are going to encounter some problem. Like it will be difficult for you. Let me just put it that way. You get, but with constant practice and all of those stuff, you'll be able to get it very well. So, what we're about to learn is a JavaScript framework, right? And for a JavaScript framework, for you to understand how to use a JavaScript framework, you must be very good with JavaScript DOM, which is JS DOM. You get, because JavaScript is DOM is that aspect of JavaScript that enables you to know how to manipulate your browser, like how you can dynamically inject HTML content into your browser, interact with JavaScript and HTML, or rather interactivity between JavaScript and HTML, and all of those stuff. Even CSS, you get. So that's just it. So if you understand them very well, then if you understand them very well, JavaScript framework won't be difficult for you. We have different framework. We have Angular, we have Vue, we have what's it called, React. React is a framework, it's also a library. It's somewhat complicated. Maybe for those in React, it will be explained to them. There's also which one again? This first. So there are many of them. You get, but the three most popular framework is React, Angular, and Vue. The three most popular JavaScript framework is React, Angular, and Vue. So that's what we are going to be learning. So we are going to be learning Vue, right? While those that register for React will be learning React. So let's go back to, let me open my VS Code. I want to show you guys something. So I believe you guys can see my VS Code. Please, if you can see it, just say something because I can no longer see that screen again.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Now what I will do is that I will create a new folder on my desktop, right? I don't want to go to my desktop. I want to create my folder from my terminal so that will be fast. So I can say mkdir let me call it Zuri view class. How many of us learned that share navigation from the GitHub video that was sent? I don't know. I was supposed to teach GitHub, but I think I traveled towards that period and I was not able to take the class. I sent a video and all of the stuff. So if you are lucky enough, or if you were able to watch the video, I don't think this will be difficult for you. But if you don't have a video, I can send it later on. But let's just continue. So what I just did, I just created a folder. What you would do normally by going to your desktop, then create a folder using your graphic user interface. But I'm using a command line interface, which is also your terminal. So let me look for Zuri, which is the new stuff we just created, Zuri view class, right? So for every, what's it called? For every HTML stuff, we must have our index.html. Index.html. I'm coming, let me make my screen a little big. Okay, I think it's visible this way. Then now for this my HTML, what can I do? I can bring out my boilerplate. Is that not so? And I can do something like h1. Let me say hello view, right? Or let me say hello JavaScript. So let me use JavaScript since we are doing a revision of JavaScript. So as you all know, there are three ways of doing JavaScript. Rather, there are two ways of doing JavaScript. I can decide to do internal and I can also decide to do external, right? So for this case, I will do the external method. So all I need to do is to come back here and click on here. I will just create script.js. Now, how do we link our JavaScript file? If you remember very well, it's to do something like this script, right? Then for the source, you put the name of the file, script.js. I believe we are following. Please, if you are following, say something so that we'll know because I can no longer see that screen.
Following. I'm following.
Okay, that's nice. So now I've successfully linked my JavaScript to my HTML. So if I come back to my HTML, I can do something like, so if I come back to my JavaScript, I can do something like alert. So let me test if it's working. I'll say hello JS, right? So by the time I do this and go back to my browser, come over that guy. By the time I come back to my browser and I'm sorry, I didn't copy parts. I think my live server is already running, but I know what I will do. So if I copy parts, come back to my browser, just watch what will happen. I will get something like this, right? Now you can see the alert is coming up. The reason is because I linked the JavaScript to it. Is that not so? So as it runs, the script will run as well. So I'll click OK. Now, like I said, we want to do some JavaScript revision first. So if I come back to my VS Code, now, as you all know, JavaScript can do a lot of things. We said we can use it to manipulate HTML elements, can use it to do different things. A lot of things, like the most important thing in JavaScript is know how to set a variable Like, and if you can declare a variable, also know the data types you have in JavaScript. So once you know all those stuff, then know the basic DOM method, you are good to go. Now, this is what I will do. Remember, there's a method called console.log, right? Just a revision. You know what console log does, right? It's used to print messages on your console. We also have console error, console.one, and all of those stuff. So no need to go over those ones. If you're a JavaScript developer, alert and console log are two basic things that you must know, whether you like it or not. So in terms of variable, remember we have let, var, and const, right? For declaring the variable. Is that not so? So I will go with okay, let var and const, let var and const. Okay, let me ask, just to be sure we're following. I don't know. Do you guys know the difference between let, var, and const? Do you know the difference between let, var, and const? Let me just ask. Any idea between let, var, and const? This thing is blocking my. Yeah. Any idea between let, var, and const? Okay, good. I've seen you here. So I want someone to just say something. What do you like? What's the difference between let, var, and const? When do you use let? When do you use var? When do you use const? So any idea?
They are all to declare a variable.
Okay.
But while in old browser, then let, I think it was new browser. But declare and be declared. You can change the variable. That's what I mean. But when you are using cost, you cannot be declared the variable again. It's specific to one.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. So I think your tutor did a great job there. That's nice. But let me just give you something to note. Like if you are using var, for var, watch what is happening. Let me increase this screen again. I believe it's big enough. For var, let me comment this guy. It can be redeclared, reassigned, and then declared, reassigned. What is it again? And one last thing, I don't think I can remember now, but I'm coming back. Then for let, it can be reassigned, but cannot be redeclared, right? Therefore const. Okay, good. I think I've remembered it now. It can be initialized, redeclared, and reassigned. So let me just put it this way. For this now, it can be initialized as well, right? It can be reassigned but cannot be redeclared. While for const, cannot be initialized, right? Cannot be reassigned and cannot be redeclared. As simple as this is just the basic difference between varlet and const. Now let me close this terminal. Now the other difference though, when you talk about browser caching and other stuff, and I think there's also one thing called OSting, but if I explain it, I don't know, it will take a bit of time before you get the understanding for JavaScript OSting. The process whereby JavaScript takes some things and make them global by default and so on and so forth. So I don't want to pass through those boring process. Let me just explain something. When we say a variable can be, when we say var keyword can be initialized, what do we mean? If I want to declare a variable using var, I can do something like var x, right? This is initialization. Hope you remember. Now, reassignment is when I do something like this. This x now, I'm not taking it and do something like x equal to 23. I don't know if you are following me. Then if I say console log my x, watch what will happen. By the time I go back to the browser, what am I having? Okay, let me reload. And I also want to open my console. By the time I go back to my browser, this is what I will get. I'm getting 23. Now, because I was able to initialize it, I can also reassign it. I don't know if you are following. Now, if you look at this thing now, the value of x is 23. If I also come back and say x equal to 30 or 50, for instance, if I save, what do you think would be the value of x? It will be 50. Why? Because I can reassign it. By the time I reload, this is what I'm getting. I'm not getting 50. So that's what I mean by initialization and reassignment. What about redeclaration? What do I mean by it can be redeclared? Can be redeclared means that I can come back here and do something like this. The same var x equal to, let me say, 90. This is, I'm redeclaring it var x again. So this is var, which is the initial method used, and this is a very, very, how will I put it? If I print this, I will get the 90. Good. Like, let me go back to my browser and show you. By the time I reload, you can see I'm getting 90. But if you are writing a program and you are doing something like this, if for instance this thing, let me say this code, this redeclaration, if it causes an error on your program or on your program, you cannot be able to debug this error. You get, like, you look for this error to the point that you get frustrated. I don't know the kind of English to use there. Like, if this thing gives you an error or a problem, it will be very difficult to debug, very difficult to fix. I don't know if you get my point. Just say, for instance, I've declared a variable using score. Now I'm not using score to do something else again. When it causes an issue in my program later on, it will be very difficult for me to debug. But if I'm doing something like let, for instance, let me say I do something like let x. Remember, I say it can be initialized. So if I do something like this, let x is also correct. So if I say x equal to 30 and I save, sorry, x equals to 30 and I save, it will also be correct, right? So by the time I come back and reload, I'll get 30. But now, see what is happening. Remember, I say for let, I can initialize it, I can reassign it, but I cannot redeclare it. Now, what is redeclaration? Redeclaration is when I come back and I say let x again equal to something. Can you see what is happening? Now, I already have a red line here. I also have another red line here, trying to tell me that what I'm trying to do is not correct. You get? So this is a way of caching errors even before they occur. You get? You can see that ES6 JavaScript. So let and course were introduced in ES6 JavaScript, also called ECMAScript 6 or ES 2015. Now you can see that ES6, there was a huge update to JavaScript. That's why let and const they now came with some strict rules. If you look now, I can't redeclare this because me trying to do this, I've already used X to declare something. I want to use it to declare again to give me an error. I don't know if you get my point. So this is a very good thing. It's a very usual update to JavaScript, but I can reassign it. I can come back here and say S equal to 900 or 9,000. If I say go back to my browser, I'm coming. If I go back to my browser and reload, you can see I'm getting the 9,000. Now let's go over to const. Let's go over to const. How is const like? Remember, I said I can't do any of those stuff there. Now, if I come back here, if I say const x and I try to initialize this, it won't work. This is because I cannot reassign it, there's no need for initialization. I don't know if you get my point. So this one is already giving me an error. If I go back to my browser, see something. It's good to learn how to read errors. By the time I reload, you can see the error I'm getting. Uncaught syntax error, missing initializer and a constant declaration. That is to say, I can't initialize using a constant. You get? So if I go back to my stuff, let's say, okay, for instance, I'm not initializing, I'm giving it a value, let me say 30, right? This will work for me. If I come back here and I reload my screen, I will get 30. But if I try to reassign this, is it going to work? Let's see. If I go back to this, let me try to reassign. Remember, reassignment is when I say x alone equal to something. Now watch what is happening. It's not giving me any error here. But by the time I go back to my browser, I will have an error saying occurred type error assignment to a constant variable. Guys, I'm using a constant. I want to reassign it again so it won't work. That is what this thing means. Uncaught type error assignment to a constant variable. So please take note of that. What about redeclaration? So if I cannot reassign, I cannot initialize, it definitely means I can't redeclare it. So what is redeclaration? Redeclaration is when I come and say const x equal to something. You can see the red lines, right? So that's for that. So if you understand this very well, I don't think there's anything in JavaScript that you can't understand. Then what again? And also take note, JavaScript for variable declaration, by the time I do something like this, L or anything, or any letter coming, let me say I do something like score, let me say I spell something or do something. It's seeing this thing as a variable automatically. I don't know if you get my point. So if I try to do something like this, console log, console.log. If I try to console log score, for instance, now watch what will happen to this. If I try to console log score, I will get undefined, blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. So let me show you. By the time I reload, this was happening on caught reference error. So I'm trying to use score, but score is not defined. You get, so you're seeing it as a variable. So please take note of that. Now you know the rules for variable, right? A variable can have numbers and letters mixed together, but it can't start with a number. You get, so if I try to do something like this, const or let over, so I will stick to let. Let me just stick to let. So you already know the difference between let, var, and const. So for clarity's sake, let me just stick to let. If I say let x equal to what am I trying to do? Sorry, I don't want to use x. Let 45 yz something. This is what is happening. I'm getting an error because a number can be used in a variable, but it should not start it. I know you guys learn this stuff. So if I do something like this, let me say name one. Can you see what is happening now? This one is working fine, right? So if I say name one equal to God bless, I can save this. I can also come here and console log name one. By the time I save, come back to my browser and reload, you can see I will get that name correctly. Is that not so? So remember, there's what we call syntax. Remember, programming is divided into two basic stuff. We have the syntax and the logic. You get. Now, I want you guys to understand that all programming languages, in terms of logic, they are the same. You get. Whatever you are learning in JavaScript, if you apply that knowledge in Python, you will be correct. If you apply it in PHP or any other language, that's the logic aspect of it. Now, for the logic aspect, how are you going to learn it? Is it that somebody will come and teach you the logic or so on and so forth? It now depends on the person. You get. So it depends on how fast you are good with calculation, how fast you are good with reasoning and all those stuff. But for syntax, syntax is different for programming languages. Like all programming languages have their syntax. Now, it is important to know that JavaScript as a programming language uses what we call camel case. Now, what is camel case? Camel case is when I do something like, let me say I want to spell a name. Let me say I want to do something like my name, for instance. I'll do something like my capital letter NAME. So this is an example of camel case. Then there's what we call snake case. Snake case is when I do something like this, my underscore name. I don't know why. I like using snake case a lot. Like that's what I like using. So this is what we call snake case. Now, PHP also uses snake case. PHP, Python, both of them use snake case. But for JavaScript uses camel case. Now, is it that if I try to name a variable using snake case, it won't work? It will work. You get why? Because this is a custom variable. Let me say I come here for instance now. See what's happening now. If I do something like variable my name equal to GB, what was happening? Then I say variable my name, right, equal to GB. Sorry, GB gram. Let me do something like this. So I want to console log this too. Now I can console log two variables by doing my name, comma, my underscore name. It will work. I don't know if you guys saw something like this. So if I come back to this browser and reload, you can see I'm getting GB gram and GB. Remember, now if you look, because this is a custom variable, right? When I say custom, we are the one naming the variable. Like we can give it anything of our choice. You get, because this is a custom variable. I can use any casing of my choice. I can use camel case, snake, anything of my choice. But when we talk about the real keyword or the real methods that are or that came with JavaScript, they are written in camel case. What is an example? An example is when I do something like this. Let btn be equal to document dot get elements by id. I know you guys did something like this. Now you can see camel case in here. Get is small letter get. Then the next word that comes is element. So element is now starting with a capital letter. Then the by is now starting with a capital letter. The I of the ID is now starting with a capital letter. So please take note of this stuff. So camel case is what JavaScript uses, or let me say JavaScript uses camel case. Let me put it that way. Okay. So because of time, I can't really run through everything in JavaScript. Remember, after you guys did variable stuff and so on and so forth, you guys did operators. We have ternary, we have arithmetic operator. What is it called again? Arithmetic. Okay, that much. Arithmetic, logical, right? We have what's it called again? Arithmetic, logical. Comparison, right? So they are much. I can't remember all of them now. They are much. Maybe when I'm doing this, I will. So they are. So arithmetic is what you use for normal addition, subtraction, and the rest of them. Then comparison operator is what you use to, like the name implies, comparison. What you use to check if something is equal to something. You know, when you are comparing. The logical operator is what you use when you want to you combine it with comparison operator, logical, trying to check for something. Okay, an example of logical. We have logical and logical or, right? Sorry, double pipe. Where's my pipe symbol? Can't find this pipe. Okay, good. I've seen it. Logical or, my keyboard is kind of different, not like the normal. I think mine is a UK keyboard, not the usual type. Then we also have the logical not. So this is an example of logical, right? So logical operator is used in combination with comparison operator. So there are a lot of them. There's what we call ternary operator as well. Yes. What again? What again? Okay, and so on and so forth. Let me put it that way. As time goes on, we'll see the ones we use in React. Then now, after learning this, I think you guys learned loop, how to loop or iterate through, and now you guys learned the for loop, right? The while loop. Then you guys also learned the for each method, which is higher order. Okay, let me just put something. Let me say higher order array methods, right? So in the higher order array method, we have for each, right? Now, all these higher order array methods, these are methods that takes a callback function. Oh, I suppose you see them. We have what we call the map. There's what we call filter. There's what we call reduce. There are a lot of them. I can't remember for now. So please take note of this, right? So after learning this, I think you guys learned some things. But I think the last thing in JavaScript is supposed to be JavaScript done, which is where I'm running to. We get. Now, when we say JavaScript done, what do we mean? Let me see. Just to be sure we are following. Okay, good. We are still here. So just to be sure we are following, let's just say something. I know I'm fast because it's a revision class. I'm not supposed to be taking JavaScript again. So please just say something so that we know we are following. Then I'll know what to do. Let me talk about done, then introduce you to Vue.js, then we'll go. Then I'll give you I'll like a short task in JavaScript, like something you will do. Then after doing it, you'll be happy that, oh, you've gotten the understanding of JavaScript and so on and so forth. So just say something or drop an emoji, anything, so that we know we are following.
We are with you, sir. We are following.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. So let's go back now. Let's talk about DOM. Now, like I said, DOM, is the reason. Should I say it's the reason? Okay, the reason why we are, after learning JavaScript, we want to learn the framework, maybe React, Angular, all this, because of JavaScript DOM. Now, JavaScript DOM is one important aspect of JavaScript. Ability for you to, go to your HTML5 from your JavaScript and select elements, render them, change their style, change their color, and everything, and so on and so forth. But now, if you are doing it with JavaScript DOM, it's kind of difficult. Not that it's difficult, like it's time consuming. Like if I want to select an element, I will need to grab that element using my DOM, then use any of the method to change the elements and so on and so forth. But if I'm doing it with a framework, I don't need to do grabbing of elements. All I need to do, each framework has a template style or a template tag they use. You get, for React, I think we use single curly bracket if I want to bring out an HTML element, or if I want to bring out a variable rather. Then for Vue, it uses double curly bracket. You get, so the thing is kind of easier when you are using a framework. You get, but if you get the understanding of DOM, learning a framework will not be difficult. So let me just give you an example. Now, this is my JavaScript, right? I have hello JavaScript. Is that not so? Now, I want to do it in such a way that I will create a button. Now, this button, I want it to say hello Vue.js class. Now, watch what will happen. If I decide to come here and write hello Vue.js class over here, it means I'm out coding. Is that not so? That's the reason why we're learning a programming language. We want it in a way such that it will be kind of interesting. You get? I want to click on the button so that it will do something. Now, if I come here, if I say change course, for instance, then I go back to my stuff. What's it called? My browser. By the time I reload, I'm seeing change course. But if I click on this change course, it's not doing anything. If I click on change course, you can see it's not doing anything. But now, what is happening? If I come back to I come back to my JavaScript file, I can do something. Now inside my HTML element, how do I select this H1 and this button? Now see the secret of DOM. The secret of DOM is that if I want to change hello JavaScript, I can't change hello JavaScript on its own. I need something else to trigger it. I don't know if you get my point. So that's where you learn event and DOM. Now, this H1, how can I select it? There is a way I will select it. Remember, for CSS, if you want to select, use either hash, asterisk, or dot. Any of them to select. For class, you use yes, for class, you use dot, which is period. Then for ID, you use hash. Then for the element, you just use the element name and the rest. But for JavaScript, selection is kind of different. If I want to select this H1, I can decide to give it a class or an ID. I can also decide not to give it a class or an ID. I will still select it. So if I come back to my JavaScript, let me just say DOM, DOM and events, right? So I can do something like this. I can say, let's H1 now. Remember, this is a variable name. Be equal to document dot get element. I can't say get element by ID because I'm not giving it an ID. So there's something I can use. I can use get element by tag name, but I can also use query selector. Let's go with query selector. Document dot query selector. Right now, remember, there's what we call single element selector in JavaScript. There's also what we call multiple element selector. I don't know if you guys were taught something like that. Now, query selector is a single element selector. Right now, what query selector does is that it selects the first of its kind. Remember, I'm having only one H1 here. If, for instance, I have 12 H1 and I'm using query selector to select only the first one. I don't know if you get my point. So if you don't want to give IDs and all of those stuff, you can use query selector. So if I do this, I will say H1, right? Sorry. Let's see. Document the query selector H1, right? So let me console.log this to see if my H1 is correct. So if I do this, so by the time I reload, come back and inspect, you can see I'm getting hello JavaScript, right? But now I want to change hello JavaScript. Remember, I've selected this element now. You can see it's a single element. It's not a multiple element. If it's a multiple element, it will return either an HTML collection or a node list, something like that. Now, since I've selected this, what will I do for me to change it now? That's where events now come in. You get? Remember, an event is something that occurs when it is triggered. Okay, fine. Let's leave programming now. Let's go to live. Like, let's go to normal real world experience. Remember, if you see an event is occurring, it simply means that thing has been planned and it's scheduled to happen at a particular period of time. I don't know if you get my point. So the same thing is also happening here. Now I want to implement an event. It won't just happen. You get? There's something that will happen before that event will come up. Like something needs to trigger it. I don't know if you get my point. Now, the most common event or the common event we see mostly are click, but there are other events. Now, this is what I will do. I can now say H1 dot add event listener. Are we following? Now, I want to add an event listener to this. What will happen? Huh? Okay, should I do this one? Should I do this one? Should I do this one? Okay, let me not do this one. Let me just select the button for understanding sake. Now I can now say let btn. Remember, we created a button. Be document dot query selector again, right? Now I can now say button. Is that not so? Now this is what I will do. Okay, I have one button here, so let me just comment this one. Remember, see what is happening now. Because I'm using let, it's telling me that I've already declared a variable called btn. You get? Now I can now go back and comment down, which is a good thing. Now I can now say this btn. Now I want to click on the button so that it will affect that text. I can now say btn dot add event listener. What is this event listener? What is it doing? This is a built-in JavaScript method that takes two things by default. I don't know, it can take more. Now, what is the first one? The first one is the event you want to add. Let me say I'm adding a click event. Then now, the second thing is a callback function. You can decide to use a regular function, something like this, or you can use an arrow function. You get? So I can do something like this. Now, when we say callback function, what do we mean? When you hear these terms, don't be confused or don't be afraid. A callback function is simply a function that is called inside another function. I don't know if you get my point. Like this now is a function, right? Then add event listener is another function. Now I'm calling this function inside that event listener. That is why it's called the callback function. Very simple. So I can now come here and now say, okay, when I click on this button, I want to change the H1. So remember, we have different attributes. We have text content, inner HTML, what's it called? There are a lot of them. You guys, but now I want to change only the text content. Now, what I want to change it to? I want to change it to hello view.js. Now, what will happen? Remember, I'm taking this button, I'm adding an event to it called click, then I'm firing a callback function. Now, if I come back to my browser and I reload this, let's see what we'll get. Okay, connect properties of none, add event listener. I'm coming. Document.query selector btn.add event listener. My null is coming from the I've seen.
Hi guys. Is anyone here?
Yes, I can hear anything. It just stopped now.
It went off?
Just now.
Oh, probably it's the network. Sorry about that. Let me try and reach him.
Yeah, it's being recorded. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what happened just now. I think this thing went off and it's coming back. So, do you guys see what I did? I was trying to do something on Chrome.
Your
Please.
screen is not showing.
It's not showing
Oh,
yet.
okay, let me share it again. Okay, I believe you guys can see it now.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now let me just go back and explain it again. Now remember, I said if I say let's issue an equal to document or get element by document or query selector. Remember, query selector, like I said, it will select the first of its kind, right? So the first issue on my HTML file, that's what it's selecting. This hello JavaScript. Then now I'm now selecting the button again by saying document or query selector, grabbing the button, right? Then now I can now add an event to it, btn dot add event listener, right? So remember I said it's taking two things. One of them is the name of the event I'm adding, the second one is the callback function. Remember again, I said the callback function is a function that is called inside of another function. That's just it. So now inside this callback function, what do I want to do? I just want to change my h1 to text content. Remember text content, what I'm having inside this place. You get this my text content. I want to change it to hello view.js. Then also I want to change the color of my text to red, right? Remember, color is what we use to change text color. If you want to change background color, you do something like background color. So please take note. So by the time I come back and where is it? Okay, this is it over here. I reload my screen. You can see I'm having hello JavaScript, right? So by the time I click again, come. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can, sir.
Okay, can you see the browser? Can
Yes,
you
I
see
can
the
see the browser. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, by the time I reload, I will get this and get this. So that's just for that. So now that's that about that. Then still on DOM. I don't know if you guys did what's it called? A counter. Now counter is a very simple application. It's just to apply some logic from DOM itself and loop and so on and so forth. So let's just do something on that. So this one is a very easy one. The one I just did is just to change something. So remember the same thing will also happen. Let me say I want to create a counter, for instance. I can create a button, right? Now I can call this one decrease, right? So let me just duplicate this. I'll call this one increase, right? Then let me give this what's it called? Let me give it a span. Then I'll do something like ID. Let me just call this one count. ID equal to count, or okay, let me give it count. So let me use num. So what should happen if I go back to my browser again? What's it called? If I go back to my browser, you can see I'm having decrease, increase. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to change this to. Let me give this guy 0 for a start. So this is now 0, right? So if I come back here and reload. Now, when we say counter, what do we want? We want this to show by when I click on this increase, what will happen? The 0 will change to 1. When I click again, it will change to 2 continuously. The same thing with the decrease. But now, how do we go about it? Like I said, we'll make use of DOM. Comment. I want to put these guys close to each other. Okay, good. So, like I said, we'll make use of DOM. Now, in making use of DOM, what should we do? I have a button here, right? I also have another button. Now, if I decide to use something like document or query selector to select my button, remember it will get just the first one. Is that not so? But there's something I can also do. I can do something like ends, get this and this. But for the sake of simplicity, let me just give this guy an ID. Let me call it decrease, right? And I'll give this guy an ID. Let me call it increase, right? Now, what will happen? If I come back to my JavaScript, I can now select by using document of element by ID. Or I can also use document of query selector. Let me use query selector. So if I say let increase be equal to document.query selector, I'm using query selector. Now, if you look at this H1, when we are selecting H1, H1 was an element. I don't know if you could recall. It's just an element. But if I'm selecting an ID by using query selector, I will put the how will I put it? I will put hash there. Remember the notation for IDs are hash when you want to select them from CSS. So the same thing will happen. So I will put hash and I'll say INC, right? So let's see what will happen. How do I know if my selection is correct? It's just to console log and view what I'm having. So if I do this, come back to my browser. So I need to inspect, reload, go back to my console. You can see I'm getting that button with an ID of increase, right? So let me also go back to my JavaScript again. So if I duplicate this, right, what will I do? I'll call it decrease. So let me select the one with an ID of decrease, right? So remember I said I can print multiple things by using a comma. Is that also? So by the time I come back to my browser and reload, you can see I've gotten the increase and the decrease button, right? Then now, what should I do? I want the situation whereby when I click on this button, it will affect my, what's it called? It will affect my span, right? So just to go back again and do another selection. Now this selection will be let my norm, I called it norm, let it be equal to, okay, no need, let me just duplicate this guy, right? Then you can say, do something like this, Control D, then do something like this. So let me console log norm and see what I will get. So by the time I reload, you can see what I'm getting. I'm having button, decrease, increase button, decrease button, and the span with an ID of norm. Now, what should I do next? Now, since I've gotten these guys, the next thing to do is to add an event listener. But now, where am I adding the event listener to? Let me ask. Am I supposed to add the event listener to the button or to the span, if I should ask? So I need an answer. Am I supposed to add the event listener to the button or to the span? So
To the button.
I need an answer to the button, right? So good. Now, another thing will come into play here. Remember, I said the logic now depends on how fast you can think. Now, is it proper to do the increment logic on the increment button or with the decrement button? Okay. So if I want to do the increment or the incrementation, should I do it on the increment button or the decrement button?
The increment button.
The increment button.
Very simple. That's just it. So all I need to do now is just to come back and do something like this. I will say, okay, inc.add event listener, right? Now I want the situation whereby when I click, it will increase. Remember, there are different mouse events. I have click, I have double click, I have mouse in, mouse out. There are more. You get. So let me just take click for instance now. Now when I click again, remember when you see anything like add event listener, it will take the event and a callback function. Don't forget that. So this is an example, right? A callback function. This is the event. Then this from this place is the callback function. The same thing will also happen here. This is the event, a click event. Sorry. This is the event, a click event. Then now a callback function. Now in this callback function, what do I want to do? Now, for the callback function, I just want to take num, right? The text content. Okay. Num the text content. Okay. Equal to something. Now, what is that thing I want to equate it to? I want to set a variable. See what will happen. I want to set a variable, and I want this variable to be count, right? Now, this count variable, by default, I will give it 0. You get? Then now, when I click on the increment, I want to increment this count. And see what's happening. I will say count plus plus. Now, I'm not only saying count plus plus, but I'm now reassigning it to num.text content. I don't know if you understand. Or let me just remove this guy. See what will happen. Let me remove this guy. You see this count now? Can we all see the count?
Yes,
Can
I
see the
can.
count? Okay, good. Let me console log the count so that you see something. I want to console log the count. Now, whenever I click on this button, I want you to console log the count. Now, watch what will happen. By the time I come back here, and reload the page, watch what is happening. Okay, reload. Okay, now see, when I click on it, oh, sorry, that's not what we are using. That's a different file. So let me close that one. So this is what we are using. When I reload, when I click on increment, this is what's happening. I'm having the count, the numbers of times I've clicked, right? But now I also want to do something again. I'm coming over. I will explain the concept to you. Let me just write the concept I want to explain. Explain function. So I will explain function, the concept of function for you guys. So when I come back here again, I want to say count plus plus. Count plus plus is what I want to console log. So let me come back and do this on my browser. So by the time I reload again, watch what will happen. Now when I click, you can see that it's 0. When I click again, it's now 1. Click again is now 2. Click again is now 3. So the main logic behind this counter, you've done it already. But how are you now going to put this inside your HTML so that it will render on the browser? That's what we're going to do now. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. Now, by doing that, you just need to set something. Remember, if you want to get the text, what will you do? So you just to say the num dot text content, right? You want to set it to be equal to something. Now, what are you setting it to? If you set it to count, it will remain in 0. Or if you set it to any number, let me say set this to 23 or 12. You just watch what will happen. If I set it to 12 and I go back to my to my browser, right? By the time I reload, click. This was happening. It's now 12. When I click again, that function is just running once. You get? Why is it running once? Not that it's running once, but if you look at what I'm having, I'm just setting it to this. You get? I'm not touching the variable. I'm not doing anything. That's why it's stopping there. Maybe if I do something like a loop or something, I'm sure it will continue. But that's not my focus. Now my focus now is this. Since I've already seen a way to do this function, and this function, so since I've seen a way to increment this number, and I'm calling that in the function, don't forget, a function is a block of code that runs whenever you call it. That's just the simple definition of function. Now, what is happening now? Because I'm using this as 12, when I click on that button, the function keeps running, but I'm not updating the value of my count. I'm just setting it to 12, which is an accoded value, you get. But if I decide to do something like this now, when I click on it, I want to increment count by saying count plus plus. Now, watch what will happen. Now, each time the function runs, it will update this variable. That's what's happening. So if I come back, go back to go back to this, reload my page. When I click on it, this is what's happening. I'm having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me just close this guy so that you see it. So when I click on it, you can see that it's increasing, right? But for my decrement, it's not yet doing anything. Why? Because I've not tied anything to it. So let me just go back and rush this guy. So for the decrement, it's very simple. You get? So it's just to let me just copy this guy, then I'll change it to DEC, right? then I'll change it to minus minus. So the same thing. So by the time I save, come back and reload my page, you can see that when I click on this guy, it's incrementing, right? When I click on it, it's decreasing, right? I can also set it so that there will be a reset button. If I want it to go to 0, it's very simple. If you want to do something like that, you just add the button, give it an ID, and in that case, you don't need to use the variable here, just to set this number test content to be equal to 0. Finish. That's just it. So I believe with this, I've explained DOM to some extent. There are still other things on DOM. Maybe I will give it to you guys as an assignment. So are we clear now? Are we clear? Please, if I are clear, say something. Then let's just introduce Vue.js. Then we'll go into Vue.js proper in our next class. So if you have any question on JavaScript, just ask so that we answer. If you have any question about you, maybe things that I've not talked about here, and maybe you have it as a question before it's bothering you, just ask a question, I will answer. So is there any question before I go? If you have a question on JavaScript, just ask. JavaScript in general. Okay, oh, seems like there's no question, so I'm free to continue. Okay, oh, Asidu, Oyin, Kasola, Akin, Mix, Daniel Johnson. Please, if you have a question, ask on JavaScript. Like anything you want me to talk about, any concept, is it function, loop, or anything, just ask.
Sorry, please, can you talk about async and await?
Async and await. Async and await, Abi. Okay. Now, async and await is a JavaScript concept you use whenever you want to run an asynchronous JavaScript. Now, when we say asynchronous programming is something that will start now and finish later. You get. Now, we mostly use the async and await when we are fetching data from an API. I don't know if you get my point. So should I look for an example? Let me just give you an example first. Now, if you are fetching data from an API, is returning a promise. Let me put it that way. Now, that promise is trying to tell you that, okay, fine, you've made a request. You are trying to get something. But you can't just get it normally without using the await method, provided you use async. You are supposed to get a promise. But now, in order for you to get what you are looking for, you need to await the method, then before you can get it finally. It's just a simple method of sending and receiving information. Maybe I think you guys normally use async and await when you are fetching data from an external API and so on and so forth. So how do you write async and await? Async and await function is the same as your regular function. The only difference is the async and await over there. So let me say I want to get I'm coming my data is connected. Let me say I want to get something. Remember, if you are creating a function, let me say const fetch data. Let me just call fetch data as a function, right? Sorry, const fetch data, right? Arrow function. This is how to write it, right? So you can now do something. Remember, if you are doing a regular function, let me say you are not fetching a data from an API, there's no need for async and await. You get. So all I need to do is just to console.log, or let me use return. Return is better. Return. Let me say return data fetch, right? So watch what will happen. Oh. Let me comment this guys. Just watch what will happen. Let me comment this guy. Now, if I come now, if I want to get what I have in this it's just to do something like let me say console log do this. Watch. If I do this, let me go back and reload my page. This is what I'm getting on my console. I'm getting the fetch data. Sorry, data fetch, right? But now, the reason why I'm not supposed to use anything like async and await over here is because this is just an information that is here within my local machine and all of this stuff. But let's say, for instance, now I want to get this information from a database. Since the database, I'm not the one controlling it, I'm making a request to a server that maybe it might not have network at that point in time and something and so on and so forth. I need to use an asynchronous method to do that fetch. That's why you now see something like this. Now see something like const fetch data. I'm coming. Let me comment this one. Const fetch data equal to an async, right? Async, then something like this, you get. Now this thing passes out, or this is a two-step process. Now, first of all, you need your response. So this will be to await something. Now, what are you awaiting? Remember, when you use async, await must follow. Just like, how do they call this thing in English language? Is it collocation also? I can't really remember. You get, when you use async, await must follow. Now, this is saying, okay, this is an asynchronous function. Though. You can't just get your response back. You get, you need to await the process. That's just what it means. You get. So I can now say await fetch. Then I can now use my JavaScript fetch API. Maybe I'm fetching information from something. I don't know. Let me just go to JSON placeholder API. Let me just get it for you guys. So if I come here, if I say JSON placeholder, this is like a fish. This is like a fake REST API to test JavaScript and stuff. JSON placeholder, okay. Fake REST API. So you can go through it later. So if I do this, okay, good. So this is what I want to get. So I've gotten the link, right? Or which is the endpoint. Let me call it an endpoint now. I've gotten the endpoint. So let me just get the to-dos. Now, this is this. Now, if I decide to return response, watch what will happen. If I decide to return response, watch what will happen. Then I'll call this guy. Watch what will happen. By the time I go back to my browser and reload, this is what is happening. Remember, I said when you try to fetch the data, first of all, it will return the promise. So this is the promise now. This is trying to tell us that, okay, this thing is fulfilled. Like, we are getting something. We are trying to get an information, but it's not yet coming, or we are not patient enough. So we need to pass through another method, you get. So we are now supposed to await this again. So we are not supposed to do something like, okay, cons the data should be equal to await, right, this response. Okay, I'm coming. So I await this response. Now, do you know why I'm having something like this? Let me just explain something for you guys. Now, in JavaScript function, when you have your return statement, return is like the end of a function. Anything that comes after a return will not work. You get. So let me just demonstrate this, guys. Okay, your question is a very good one. I'm not explaining all that concept. If I say console log hello, watch what will happen. I won't get that hello. Now watch. Let me go back to my browser and reload. This was happening. Only promise. This is because as far as this function is concerned, the function has ended on this line, this return statement. But if I should take my return statement, if I should take my return statement, if I should take this return statement from this place and I put it over here, you notice that I will get that console message, right? You can see the console message coming. Can you see it? So please take note of that. But let's just go back and do what we're supposed to do. So now, what is happening now? I want to get my response. So I will call it data. This is just a variable name. So I can say something like await response, right? So this is where conversion normally comes in. Some people will say, okay, response of JSON and all of those stuff. So I will say await response. My await, is it correct? Cons data equal to await response of JSON. Okay, so I can add something like return data, right? So if I do this now, let's see what I will get. So if I come back here and reload, I'm still getting, okay, promise. I'm still getting promise. Okay. I'm coming though. Let me use my live server to open this. Okay, live server is already running on port this. I'm coming. Let me remove this guy. Move for that from workspace. I think the live server is running somewhere around here. So let me run my live server localhost or 127. Oh, you know what will happen? Let me stop the live server. I can't really remember where I'm running it from. Okay. Okay, good. So this is it. So let's see. Okay. Oh, JSON is a function. I'm supposed to do something like this. Res.json. Sorry, so that was my mistake. So that's a function. So by the time I reload, still getting this. Once I will res.json. I'm coming though. Let's see, console log data. Okay, good. Now, so this is it. Do you know why I'm getting this? Okay, let me explain why this is happening. Now, what we are doing, not that it's not correct, it's correct, but the reason why I'm getting pending here, sorry, the reason why I'm getting the promise over here at first. Now, the reason is because that is an asynchronous function. You get? I think I'm supposed to await it again as well. So maybe that's why that is coming up. So let me just come back for the sake of simplicity, clarity, and everything. I don't want to use return. I don't want to use return. Let me use this guy. So please take note. So, like I said, this is a two-step process. You first of all, what was it called? First of all, oh sorry. So, like I said, this is a two-step process. First of all, you make your request. Then, secondly, you what was it called? Secondly, you await the process and convert it to JSON. So that's for that. So I think why this is happening is because I'm doing this. So let me say await first. Oh, sorry, not that. I'm supposed to do something like this. So let's see. Okay, good. So that's the reason. I'm trying to console log when the thing is not yet completed. That's the reason I'm having that pending. So I don't know if you understand. So if you have a question, please ask. If you have a question, please ask. Is there any question?
So please,
Okay.
in the .dem method and the await, async and await, what is the difference? Can they be used separately or together?
.then is a separate method from this one. So the thing is this, any of them you prefer, you can use any one of your choice. You get? Both of them are doing the same thing, but you can use any one of your choice. I don't know if you got me correctly.
Yes.
Okay. Now for this, I'm coming. I want to see why am I having that pending. Let me just try something. Now, if I come back here and do something like this, remember, if you are doing a function, you are supposed to use return, right? So let me return this data. I don't want to console log it. You know, programming, you try things to learn. So let me do something like this. I want to console log. Then I want to say await. Fetch. Then let me see what will happen. So let's go back and see what will happen. By the time I reload, on syntax error. Script argument list at script 103. Okay. Await fetch data. Await fetch data. Okay, let's just leave that one for now, sha. I will look at it separately. But that's for that. So what this simply means is that, let's say for instance, I want to render this data now. See something. Let's say I want to render this data to an HTML template. What this simply means is that I will do my rendering inside of this function. I don't know if you get my point. So let me just do something for you guys, something related to DOM. Or should I give it as an assignment? So I want you guys to decide for me. What I'm about to do, should I do it or I should give it as an assignment to you guys? So let's see. You want us to do it here live and direct, or I should give it as an assignment? Huh?
Please, let's do it here.
Okay, we should do it here.
So,
Okay, I the one that said we should do it too. Okay, so this will be the last thing on DOM we will do today. Now, if you look at this, I'm having 200 to dos, right? Now, you might be asked to render this on your what's it called? You might be asked to render it on your browser. So how do you render something like this on your browser? Maybe you fetch an API and so on and so forth. Now, the mistake most developers make is this. Like me, I was a victim of this thing. After learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript was kind of difficult for me to learn, so I just moved over to the framework after learning variables and some other stuff you get. So at a point, I was able to do rendering with React, but I can't do it with JavaScript. You get? So not until I went back and I started learning JavaScript again to get the understanding and everything. But let me just show you something. Now, if I want to do something like that now, remember we've already done JavaScript DOM, right? Now you've done a function to you've written a function to get items from an endpoint. Is that not so? All you need to do if you want to render this on your browser now, is just to come here. You can do something like, let me say H1, you say JSON, JSON to do's, right? So you can come here and do something like this. You can create a div. Inside this div, you can give it an ID of, let me see, ID of to do's, right? So if I do something like this, ID of to do's, I can come back to my script and I can do something like this. I will say let to do's be equal to document dot query selector, right? So I'll say to do's. Is that not so? Then now I can do something like this. Let HTML be equal to or no, let me not do it that way. Now I want to do something. Let HTML be equal to a string. Now this is an empty string. I can now do something like for each method, right? For each sorry, that's not the right for each. I will say to do's dot for each, right? Remember, this is a higher order array method. I say every higher order array method takes a callback function, right? So for each to do, I want to call a single one to do. Then my callback function will return something. So let me console log to do so that you see what I will get. Now, if you look at my browser now, everything they were in form of an array. Now, if I reload, this is what I'm having. Okay, I'm coming. On type to this dot for each is not a function. I'm coming. To this dot for each is not a function. To this dot for each. Okay, I'm coming up. So when it tries to prove stubborn, there's something you can do. To do dot for each, right? Array dot for each. I'm correct now. Array. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to use to do. To do is not a variable here. Please take note. The name of the variable is called data. Please, I will follow it. That's why I'm getting that error. Remember, look at what I'm having. It's trying to tell me that to do the for each is not the function at fetch data. Remember, to do is a variable, but this variable does not exist. Remember, so I'm not supposed to use to do. I'm supposed to use data, right? So please take note of that. So ability for you to be able to detect your error is a good programming skill. So I will say data dot for each. Now let's see what we'll get. So by the time I come back and reload this page, this is what I'm having. I'm not having these data, right? So how do I bring them to my what's it called, to my browser? So it's very simple. So if I want to do that now, just to, let me say, come back here and create an element. So this is an element, right? So HTML element. I can now do something like this. So let me do something like HTML plus equal to, let me do this. How many of us know this in JavaScript? It's a kind of template tag. So if I say h1, so I can do something like this. So I'll say to do the title. Do I have to do the title? So this is what I'm getting, Abby. So if I come outside, I can do something like this, console log HTML. So let me see what I will get. So if I come back here and reload, this is what I'm getting. I'm getting this. So I have enough console logs here. So I want to remove some of them. So this guy, I will remove this console log. Where's the other one? I'll remove this console log as well. Right? So now let me come back to my stuff and show you what I'm getting. By the time I reload, this is what I'm getting. I'm getting the titles of these to-dos. But now they are now in HTML element format. Now I want to tell you guys something. Remember when we were doing HTML DOM, or if you've ever read about HTML DOM, you know that there are three methods of changing text. I have inner text, right? Sorry, inner text, inner HTML. Sorry, inner text, text content from inner HTML. right? Then I also have test content. Now, if you read about these three guys, test content and inner test, both of them are the same, but inner HTML is different. Now, what is inner HTML is doing is trying to change the HTML element of what you are having there. You get, so let me just show you something. If I want to do this now, I can do something like this. Since I know that, okay, after that, I'm not getting this, I can now do something like this div. Remember, I created a div here, and I said the div has an ID of to-dos, right? I can now grab this div by doing something like this. Let's to-dos, okay, I'll grab the div also. So I can now do something like this. I'll say to-dos dot. Now, what will happen if I say to-dos dot inner text? What will happen? Inner text. If I set it to equal to this HTML, what will happen? If I save and go back to my browser, and I reload, this is what is happening. Inner text, it doesn't know how to pass the HTML elements. Are we following? So you see the same thing with test content. So if I come back here and do something like this, dot test content, what should I will get to? Time I come back here, sorry, time I come back here, I'm almost done. If I reload, this is what I'm getting. It doesn't know how to pass it as well. But if I use inner HTML will know how to pass. Now, pass here means it's not PASS, please. The pass I'm talking about is PARS, ability to convert something. You get? So if I do something like this, dot inner HTML, what should I will get? The time I save, come back here and reload the page. This is what I'm getting. So I'm not able to pass this. I have the title. So if I want to make this a little more interesting, I can come back here. I can create a div. You get? I will say div, call me div with an so let me just call it a div with a class name of to do, because I will style it. Now what show? Then I can close this div over here. I will say div, right? Then see something again. Then this what next thing I will do is I can do something like paragraph, right? Then inside of this paragraph, I can now say to do dot content. Is it content? Let me check. Let me check from my console. I think I've okay, good. Let me just call it content, shy. If it doesn't work, I will check for it. So P. If I save this, come back and reload. Okay, it's content. Okay, not content. It's not content. So let me just come. Let me just check. Let me console log to do so that I will know what we have there. So I can't console log to do here. Sorry, console log beta. Sorry, this is the last thing we'll do. So by the time I reload, so for the array now, what is it called? I have the title. Okay, there's no content. I only have the what's it called? I only have the completed state, the ID, the title, and the user ID, right? So let's just leave that stuff. Let's just leave it out. So I can remove this one, right? Or let me just do something like this. To do dot what's it called? To do dot completed. Let me do something like to do dot completed. So if I do this now, what should I will get? For some of them to be true, for some of them to be false. Now you can use this to create a CSS styling. You get, so for with this now you can decide to style it. So let me just come back here. If I want to write my style for that, I can target this class inside the CSS file. All right. So let me just come back to the HTML and do something like this. If I say style tag, I don't want to create a CSS file. If I say style tag, I can see I will see dot to do's, sorry, hash to do's. Remember, this is an ID, right? Okay, no need for that one. No need for that one. Let me see dot to do. I can give it a border of 1 pixel, solid RGBA 0,0,0,0.1, right? And I can give it a width of let me see 600 pixel, right? Then I can give the margin of auto. So if I do this and I come back and reload, so this is what I will get, right? So I will get something like this. Why is this thing? I'm sorry, it's not supposed to be like that. So, but that's for that. Styling is not our major aim in this course. So that's for that. That's for that. So is there any question before we go? Before we call it a day? So you can also add padding to it. So let me just come back, add the padding of 10 pixels around. So is there any question before we go? It's just that I like fine design. That's why I'm trying as much as possible to change the design. So let me change this to H3. So is there any question before we go? Oh, now I see where this thing is coming from. I know where this thing is coming from. So any question before we proceed or before we go?
No question.
Okay, good. No question. Now, since there's no question, now the next thing I want us to talk about is this. Sorry, don't mind my styling, Sha. That's not. It's just maybe there's a bug somewhere, there's a mistake somewhere, but that's not our focus, right? Our focus is in rendering the elements to the web page. Remember, what we just did is that we fetch this data from an external source, right? And we're able to use JavaScript DOM to do all of this. Now, if I want to do this using React or let me say Vue or any of the front-end framework, I won't have to pass through all this process because it's a very easy thing to do. Because that's why we say, good, before you understand all of those framework, at least the knowledge of JavaScript DOM is very important. So please take note of that. So for our class, we are going to be taking, what is it called? We're going to be doing Vue.js. So that's what we are going to be doing. Again, remember, Vue.js is one of the JavaScript framework. Like I said, it's used to build interactive user interface, or you can also call it, you can also say it's used to build a single page application. Again, when we say single page application, we're talking an application that you don't have to send a request to the server each time you reload, each time you visit a web page. Again, if you look at the traditional PHP or Python website, you notice that whenever you click on any of the pages, you are sending a request to the server to give you that particular page you are requesting for. But if you are using a framework, you don't have to do that. Again, you just need to send your request once or initially, then subsequently the routing of that framework will start doing the sending of pages to you. So there's no page reload and all of those stuff. That's just what you need to know there. Now, let me just show you an example. Let me just show you something. If I go to this W3 school, okay, if I go to this W3 school website, for instance, by the time I click on this is what is happening. Notice this place. You notice that this page is reloading, right? If I click on this, you notice that this page is reloading. But let me open a website that is built with Vue for you so that you see something. If you look at this, this is built with Vue. If I go to about page, is there any reload? If I go to about page, do you see any page reload? There's no page reload. It's very fast, right? If I come to here, you notice that this place, this area where my mouse is not reloading. It's not doing anything. You get. If I come to this place, you can see that it's not reloading. But if I come back to this one, when I click on this, you notice that this space is reloading. Why? For this traditional website, I'm sending you can server over and over because in order for me to get a page. But for this, the routing of Vue.js is already doing it for me. Because so when I click on the page, when I request for another page, it will say, no need to go to the server. I'm already here. I will give you that page. So that's just how it is. So this is an example of a single page application. When we say a single page application, it doesn't mean that it has just one page. No. It means that you don't need to reload the page anytime you are making a request. The routing of that framework is already doing it for you. So is there any question before we go? So we'll start our Vue.js class by tomorrow. I think I have the course outline or what we'll be covering over here, but I can't find it. I can't find it. I think this thing is covering it. So is there any question before we go?
So can we also get a Slack channel?
You said?
Can we get a Slack channel?
I can't hear you clearly.
Channel on Slack that's and for video.
Jesus Christ. Is it my speaker? Can you please speak out?
Maybe you should type it because I can't hear him also.
He said, can you create a Slack channel for Vue.js?
Okay, Slack channel for only Vue.js, just like the way they created one for just PHP students. Okay, no problem now. We'll create one
Yes, sir.
if that's the case. So is there any other question before we call it a day? Any other question? So I will create one. I will try and create one. Is there any other question? I wanted to show you guys the course outline so that if we didn't do anything, you guys can hold me responsible. Like, we must do this. You get, that's what I want. but I don't know. I don't want to. Okay, let me check, Sha. Let me just check. So is there any other question while I look for this stuff? Okay, good. This is it. This is it. This is what we'll be looking at. So we look at the visual, this is the course outline. We look at introduction, what is view, advantage of using view, setting up a view project. But before we look at setting up a project, we look at how to do view with just the CDN. You get. Then we'll go over to syntax, instance, syntax. Okay, the instance is what I just talked about. Using a CDN and creating the view instance. You get. So we look at templates, data binding, directive, event handling, component, then routing, view form, HTTP, which is how to fetch requests from an API using VJS and rendering it on your page. You get then view state management. Okay, state management. We might look at state management because I was told that we should not do it. But let's see how it goes, Sha. We might look at it. Then we will also look at deployment. How do you deploy it to maybe Netlify, Excel, or anything? You get. Then also look at VJS project. You get, we combine all of this knowledge and build a project. So I think we can call it a day for now. So is there anything before we go? Any question before we go? I'm in a hurry. I need to go. Okay. Is there any other question before we go? Is there any question? Okay, I don't think there's any question. You said?
Say no question.
Okay, with the absence of no. All right, thank you very much. So we can call it a day now. So thanks for joining. And I will speak with the host of this program. Let's see if we create our own
Okay.
VJS channel. And as well, I will send an assignment to that channel later on. Or maybe you see it on your, what's it called, your LMS. I think
you
our next
share
class,
Can you share the
can I?
link this thing that you open, the docs that you open now?
Okay, I will share it with you guys. I'll share it. I want to create a good PowerPoint slide, then I will share that one.
All right.
All right, sir. So you guys should take a study. Just go over your JavaScript again. Try to study ES6 JavaScript. You get those arrow function, let and cons, ternary operators, things like that. Okay, ternary is mostly useful with React, not really in Vue. Then also try to read Vue.js. You get, go to W3 school, just start reading about it so that in the class you won't be lost. You get, you can come with questions and all of those stuff. Thanks for joining. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right.
Your battery is the last, Abby.
The last one.